This video tutorial will cover the basics of inverter maintenance.
Today we're going to discuss inverter maintenance. Here we are at Central Inverters. Some of the sites have micro inverters which are attached to the solar modules. Other sites are going to have what are called string inverters. Central inverters and string inverters typically have filters, which are maintenance items. And we also want to look at the cleanliness of the interior of the inside of the inverter. And then we're going to want to look at the torque at the terminations for the DC and AC conductors. Those are the three main components of inverter maintenance. However, before we do so, we need to safe the inverter before getting inside. So I'm going to run through the shutdown procedure again. And the first thing we're going to do is we hit the emergency stop. We then come over and we open up our switches at the inverter, and then we open our switches for the output coming down from the roof. Now we can safely open in the inverter. And before we're going to get in there, I'm going to grab my safety gear and my meter, and I'm going to verify that we have no voltages on the bus. One thing to keep in mind is that after inverters are shut down, there are capacitors across the DC bus. They take time to bleed off. So you do not want to put your hands in there immediately without having measured the DC bus to verify that there is no voltage on it. So we verify that we're on DC volts. And right here is our DC bus coming through here. So let's put this here. We are now measuring across the negative termination for the DC bus. We are using the ground and we are using the positive inputs from the PV. Okay, we have verified that the photovoltaic input or the DC input from the PV array is off. We now will transfer to measuring the AC current. And what we want to verify is that we just have no voltages coming in from the AC. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look down here at the transformers and at our ground bus and verify we have nothing. We have 0 volts there, 0 volts there, and we have 0 volts here. So the interior of this inverter is now safe to work on. Now, as we do our inspection, visual inspection is always part of any maintenance procedure. So you just take a look, make sure there's no dangling connectors on any of the boards. We're looking at the cleanliness of this board. And this one I would actually take either a very light air hose and air hose this board off. There is some dirt buildup on it, as we can see. So I would clean this, or with a very soft vacuum off this control board, because dirt actually will produce conductive paths, which could lead to circuit failures. Up here on the drive stages, they look really clean. I would leave those alone on this particular inverter. And then again, I'd come with an air hose maybe and just blow off some of the dust on some of the busing and the wires, because we have some buildup that's happened over time. And then vacuum out the bottom of the cabinet. The cabinet does look like it's been maintained recently and vacuumed. And although it's getting close to being due, tops of the capacitors, I can see some dirt on those as well that could be vacuumed off. Lastly, checking connections. You can see all the torque points on the connections here, and then you would come back and just double check your torque settings on them just to make sure nothing's loosened up over time, because again, that's where failure points will happen in inverters. As the connections loosen, then they build a resistive contact, which will produce heat, and then we can lead to failures down the road. Lastly, we're going to double check the filter. Okay, we have already taken our access off to the filter to speed the process. And let's get a look at this filter. And we can see that this filter has quite a bit of buildup and is in need of cleaning. One thing that actually will hurt an inverter is lack of airflow. As air is restricted, the heat sinks inside that are cooling the switching elements will get hot, which could overheat the switching elements, which could lead to failures. So it's imperative that the airflow as it's intake here and then exhausted, this is the circulation for this inverter, is kept clear. This particular filter is quite plugged, is in need of replacement or cleaning. So as they age, one way to clean them is you can spray them off with an air hose, or in this case, replace.